Okay guys, welcome back to another video. Another video where I got a bunch of notes, I guess. But it was a great episode. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it more throughout the video, but like the tension building and the setup for next episode is very well done, just like last season's penultimate episode. But we start with swimming next to a cold area. At first I thought it was Gemma, but it is Helena swimming. She just gets a free pool in her house, I guess, and we get a reveal here that she lives with her father with a pretty giant house, so it makes sense, like the Egan house, I guess. But she gets a free pool. I mean, not a surprise, because they're probably rich, or they're definitely rich. But yeah, James Egan is here and says it is a momentous day, and this is obviously because they think they're gonna finish Cold Harbor today, but Mark never shows up for that. I mean, this might be the most frustrating scene in the show, even more than that cliffhanger last season. I might say that. Okay, maybe not. But Helena starts to cut up an egg, and then she like uses her knife to like cut off the tip of the egg, and then she's taking the smallest pieces, and then her like fork and knife start scraping against the plate, and I'm like, why are we cutting the egg in such small parts and scraping our plate? Can we just eat the food? And it made me a little hungry. I'm not gonna lie. I skipped a meal to get the video out as fast as I could, or watch it as fast as I could, so I could get the video out as fast as I could. But yeah, the scene actually pissed me off. But James Egan says we're going to deal with Mr. Balif today, and if you somehow don't know, that's Irving. And then he says, I wish you'd take them raw. Like, okay, he's talking about the eggs. But after this, we go to a wide shot of the building, and also a like lake area, which one is in the intro. In the intro, there's a frozen lake area with a car in it, and this has led to theories that it is presumably Gemma's car from her death, I guess, her death. This might be exactly where it happened. But then we go further, and we go to a water tower where it's intentionally framed to have to almost like aim at the building, which is very interesting. I know Cold Harbor's been theorized for a lot of things, but I feel like it's something large scale, I guess. Something large, like, I don't know, like I'm talking like explosions and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I talked about this a few episodes ago. I think episode 7, yeah. But basically, I was like, I'm guessing the finale is going to be Cold Harbor reaching 100%. And it very well could be that. That could be the cliffhanger, like Cold Harbor 100% online. And then season ends. That would be pretty messed up, especially since they know what they did to us last time. But, or it could just happen halfway through the episode or something, and they have to deal with it. It's going crazy, whatever Cold Harbor does, and then it cuts, something like that. Or Cold Harbor never happens, because I don't see Mark wanting to finish Cold Harbor, but maybe they send him back into. But there's a little bit more information on Cold Harbor this episode. But after the intro, we go to Eustace Huang, which is Miss Huang's name, and she's at the end of her Wintertide Fellowship, which we learned about last episode with Cobell, which is the name of their fellowship. And it's Wintertide, and we know this goes back to Salt's Neck. But she gets ahead of James Egan. I think it's James. Could it be Kier? I think it was James Egan, just like Cobell did. And Milchek says her bed will be moved to Gunnel Egan Sympathy Center in Svalbard. Where her work will be as a steward for global reforms. So that's just a lot. But she said, I thought I'd at least get to finish the quarter, and she's upset. She's actually showing some emotion, and that she needs to give up a totem now that she's graduated from the Wintertide Fellowship. And she puts out her toy that we saw her playing with in episode 1 that represented some sort of childhood innocence that she is forced to smash multiple times. So I mean, she's kind of just eliminating her childhood, which just shows how they run things at Lumen. Then we go to Dylan. Dylan's out tea with Gretchen, who says Asher picked up the kids. I mean, that could be nothing, but it could lead to something. And then randomly out of nowhere, it just says, I kissed your innie. And now it's weird. It's weird that she hid it from him now that she said it, that she didn't tell him right away. Now it's weirder that she hid it. And it's just weird in general. And then she says we kissed for about a minute, which is funny. And then she says that he's been adrift and that the innie version of him was how he used to be. And like, I was thinking here, like, does she think that's gonna work? Telling him why she prefers his innie more than his outie? Does she think that's gonna make him feel better? And then he says, you're cheating on me with my own body, which, again, that's exactly what's happening. It's still weird, but it's interesting. And then we go to Irving's outie, and we definitely see in everyone in this episode, from Mr. Drummond to Irving's outie. We see everyone building up to the final episode. Compared to, like, last episode, we kind of just stuck with the crew the whole time, mainly. The innie crew. And outie Mark. But Radar the dog is sitting down just staring when Irving comes back to his house, and it turns out he's staring at Bert, and Bert is most likely what Jamie Egan meant when he said that they were taking care of Irving, Mr. Balif, today. But Bert's reading notes about himself and Fields that Irving wrote down about him and his mistrust of them. But then Bert says, I want to go on a ride. And then he says it again, and Christopher Walken was actually really creepy in this scene. Like, he was actually pretty scary. He was scary. He could play the scary guy. Then we get a view of the Lumen campus. It's not a campus. The building. The parking lot. Whatever. I don't think we've ever seen this entire view from this profile. This side profile. And it definitely looks strange, obviously, because it's incredibly symmetrical. And you know what? Speaking of Cold Harbor theories, maybe it opens in the center and it like separates to hell, and that's what Cold Harbor is, just a door to hell. I mean, that maybe. But then we go to Dr. Maurer, who's got a little band-aid now because he got a chair to the face. He's still watching over Gemma, but not physically anymore, I guess. But he reports that Cold Harbor numbers aren't moving. And it definitely feels like everything's coming together, especially when Helly shows up for the episode and goes into work, finds that the lights are off and that no one is here. Then we cut to Mark driving with Devin, talking about Cobell, and that they told her everything, like the end of last episode when she says, tell me everything. And she did not reciprocate with telling them much, but they turn into this area of snow that's almost like a path where they plan to meet Cobell. Mark's obviously worried it's a trap, and then Milchek goes, bing, ring-a-ding, ring-a-ding. He calls, he ring-a-dings. And they decide not to answer at this moment. They will later. And then we go back to Helly, just Helly, who wants to know if Mark is okay. And Milchek's like, why? Why do you care about people's well-being? Like, and then she kind of digs on him and says how he replaced Cobell, which we know is sensitive from episode 1, where there's just this 5-second scene of him seeing that he's taken over Cobell's role, and he's got some sadness in that scene. Just in episode 1, it's like 10 seconds, but we know just from that scene that he has that weighing on him this whole entire season. And Milchek's starting to break this, especially with this episode, and I really want him to work with Cobell and the crew. That'd be incredibly interesting, because season 1, it was kind of like Cobell and Milchek were like the bad guys, and our four membered crews who we rooted for. But now if like all of them team up, I guess except for Irving, that'd be pretty cool. But then Milchek's like, please leave the door open, and then Helly, don't leave the door open. She shuts it, and it makes him really sad.
Leave it open.
Like, he genuinely seems sad there. But then Gretchen tells Dylan, she says, I told you about us, which is so weird. And then I was thinking here that Outie Dylan told his wife, don't visit me any Dylan, and well, she didn't listen, but she is planning on quitting now from now on. And Dylan says that he has nothing else without her. It really comes down to, I mean, I'll talk about it, but it really comes down to the fact that Irving left, and that Helly and Mark are doing their own thing, and that they talk about this in the after credits, but I'll talk about it now. That Gretchen made Dylan's life complex and interesting. And the thought of going back to his simple life where finger traps are what mattered scares him. But then, he's scared enough. He proposes with the little ring he made. And I don't know what the hell I'm watching. But then Dylan gets denied by Gretchen as she leaves. And then we cut to him and Helly as he still fiddles with his ring. And Helly speaks the truth, saying Lumen was just using him and convincing him with Gretchen and not focusing on what Irving's last wishes were in the hallway. And then Dylan gets mad and says it's Helly's fault that they are down here and that Mark couldn't tell it was her. Just trying to be petty. He's angry. We'll let him be petty, I guess. And then we transition with her face perfectly being in the water while the right side is the cliff. I think it was pretty interesting. It's not much, but it's cool. Then Cobell drives up to Mark and Devin near the cliff. Man, they're so good at building tension and building to the climax. They did that so well this episode. Okay, I've said that like a couple times. Okay, and then she says, "Hello, Mark. How are you?" And Cobell says that they should be allies now. And Cobell says it's important to know if Mark's even completed the file yet. We don't even know what file, or we don't even know if he's done that yet. And then she takes a few seconds before saying that it's called Cold Harbor. And that if he's completed it, then Gemma's already dead. So that adds some context to episode 7 when Dr. Maurer said once Cold Harbor reaches 100%, he's not going to get to see Gemma anymore. He was upset about that. And I thought that meant, like, once Cold Harbor is completed, she's going to be released, or he's not going to be working on her anymore. But no, it means she's dead. We don't exactly know what that entails, but except her death. But then Cobell demands him, to call Milchek and tell him that he can't show up today. And then Mark and Devin kind of talk, and they realize that there's no other option. Then Helly goes into the break room and gets the directions that Irving left behind the hang in their poster. And Dylan is looking sad as he's getting actually a little suicidal. And then we go to Radar and Irving driving with Bert, as Bert says he's never hurt anyone. And what happened to them once he drove them there was not his fault and does not count as hurting them, I guess. And at the same time, we go to Dylan, who fills out an any resignation request for Milchek and Huang. And Milchek says this reeks of ingratitude. Then Dylan gives him the key card. Well, Milchek holds his hand out to get the key card, but Dylan just plops it on the desk and doesn't put it in his hand. And Milchek just be getting disrespected today, and it kind of stacks until he pops. But Huang says she's sorry for Dylan, and she seems genuinely sorry, which I don't know. I felt like she was genuinely sorry. I think she was. And then we go to Dr. Drummond and Milchek talking, and Drummond blaming him again. Like, they like to blame him for nothing. It's not his fault. And he uses a big word, and Mr. Drummond's like, apologize for the big word. And he's like, I apologize. And he says, use something shorter than I apologize. And Milchek says, I'm sorry. And then Drummond asks to make it even shorter, or he says again. I don't know if he means make it shorter again, or if he means say I'm sorry again. It might be say I'm sorry again, because I don't know how you can make it shorter. But then Milchek says devour feculence, and then shortens it for him as he wants by saying something non-family friendly. And this is the funniest moment of the episode. It's hilarious. And then Milchek says he deserves some respect, modicum of respect, and that the severed floor is under his jurisdiction, as he puts it monosyllabically. He says it like that, and it's funny. I liked Milchek saying up for himself. And then we go back to Mark, who makes the call at the edge of the cliff. I don't know why he chose that spot, but he calls Milchek, who says Mr. Scout when he goes into the room to pick up his phone. But he says that before he even picks up the phone, and it's a landline. I don't know if y'all can tell me why. Maybe this was just an assumption that he was going to call. Maybe that phone's only from outside calls, so he was assuming that. Maybe there was some screen or somewhere I missed. But otherwise, I don't know how he knew it was Mark. But Mark says he's at a clinic, and Milchek wants the exact location. But then Mark decides to say, hey, I'm not sick. I just needed a day. And then says, isn't that what Lumen's all about? The work-life balance, and at the end of the day, work is just work, right? And then Milchek's silent for a while, absorbing this information and applying it to himself as he looks at the iceberg painting, thinking of himself, and starts to cry. He starts to cry a little bit. Mark's words resonated. He's starting to break, and I need him on our side because I love him so much. I love Milchek. But then we go to Irving and Bert, who get train tickets. And Bert is deciding here that, hey, I'm not going to deliver you to where I was instructed to by Lumen. I'm going to get you the hell out of here because I care for you. And Bert tells him to get on the train and never come back to Q. And Lumen will come after Bert, which is unfortunate. But Bert says he likes the idea that he could be innocent again, and that his innocent part fell in love with Irving. And then Irving says he's never been loved before, which is sad, and says, don't you want to know how it felt? And then they kind of like get closer. Irving says he's ready like 10 times, and Bert says we can't, like 5 times. And they push their heads together like they did in season 1, but they do not kiss or anything like that. And then Bert's staying true to his husband, Fields. And then Irving leaves very slowly. I felt like Lumen's coming after you. You should just get out of here. And I was just thinking about, in this moment, that John Turturro said before the season even aired that he wasn't with the cast that much this season. I didn't know what to think. But now I'm starting to realize that, like, we're on the finale and he hasn't really been with the crew since episode 4 that much. Then we go to Dylan waiting at the elevator. And we kind of move between a bunch of people. We go to Huang waiting, all packed to leave her parents already and go on this bus. Like, damn, why do I actually feel bad for her? I don't know what it is. Just the like 2 moments, the 3 moments we got of her this episode, I felt for her. I felt sympathy for Huang out of just nowhere. I don't know what they did to me. But Irving and Radar leave on the train together, and then Dylan is in an interesting frame here. I think it's really cool frame where he's kind of sitting where Kier's hand's positioned in the background. That's really cool. And then Huang gets on the Lumen bus. There's a Lumen bus, I guess, because why not? Lumen owns everything. And then Dylan goes into the elevator, accepting that he's basically killing himself. And then we get a shot of this train right down the middle of the screen that transitions right down the middle of the exports hall. And we see it go ding. But, I mean, we see it go ding. But that's it. I don't know. I don't know what the ding means. Maybe the ding means that somebody's coming up, or does it mean somebody's going down? Or is there some significance that it's dinging the same time Dylan's going down his elevator? I doubt that. I'm guessing it's somebody coming up and they're not showing us who it is yet. But then we go back to Mark, Devin, and Cobell as he gets in the back of the truck like Cobell did last episode. And then Helly, we go to Helly staying late at work trying to memorize the directions when Jane Egan shows up stalking her, and he says, "You tricked me." Okay, I just tried to do the voice. His voice is very, very soft, and he says, "You tricked me," and Helly's like, "What the F?" Because yeah, what the F. But what could this mean? We don't get the answer. I'd like for y'all to theorize with me here. You tricked me. What would she have done? I mean, it could be a number of things. Honestly, we might find out next episode. It might have to do with something with the breakfast or something. Maybe Helena was part of the reason Bert didn't deliver Irving Balif. I don't know. It could be so many things. We'll see if they answer next episode. They probably will. But I think that's a pretty interesting plot point right there, and them ending on that without us knowing. Then we go to Cobell and Devin driving to the birthing retreat. And to get through the guard, Cobell says that she's one of James, talking about Devin, and then talks in code to the guard that lets her through to specific cabin 5. And then next thing we know, we go to any Mark again in this cabin. Like in this cabin, he's any Mark because we know that this birthing retreat can make you an any, at least this specific cabin. And then Devon's like, okay, you're fine. I'm only taking you to Cobell, the person that you're kind of scared of. And then she stands with the fire behind her, which is perfect. They've done that a few times this show, especially this season, positioning people in front of the fire, with obviously the symbolism there. And then Mark remembers saying she's alive as the last thing he remembers saying. And then we get a mean look from Cobell. And then we get a groovier version of the main theme to close out the episode. It's definitely a great job setting up the finale for sure. And then now I'll talk about the after credits info, the stuff of note, summarizing the after credits info. But basically, they say that Cobell is being faced with the reality of her actions, making her feel vulnerable, and she doesn't like that. She's always trying to be strong. And then Helly and Helena lack familial love, but Helly gets it with her friends, and Helena doesn't with her father. This realization as her being Helly has maybe sparked to some sort of rebellious nature in her now that she realizes what she lacks with her actual family. That's not part of the notes. So it could very well be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But I think that's where this is going. And Ben Stiller talks about the fact that you can't do an affair with the same person in any other show, like Dylan and Gretchen. And yeah, I've mentioned that a few times since Gretchen appeared. And it's definitely interesting, and it's very cool that this show can do stuff like that. And then Dylan's life, they mentioned, was simple. And now that Gretchen made it complex, then he's left back to being simple. He doesn't want to live like that, which I talked about earlier, but still worth noting. And then they mentioned that Lumen is very aware that Irving is investigating them after Mr. Drummond invaded the home in episode 6 maybe. I think it's earlier than that. And then they mentioned that the specific cabin splits the innie and the outie, and that there's actual going to be a complex conversation going to be talked through with Cobell, which between Mark and Cobell, which is interesting. And then I think it's interesting that we're coming full circle again to the beginning of the season when he said she's alive. Innie Mark talking to Devon, and now we're back there. Innie Mark talking to Devon, thinking about what he last said, and then Cobell's here. And the episode was what I wanted. It was a great setup, and I'm still excited for Cobell to be on our side. Hopefully, I'm not sure yet, but if she is, that'd be exciting. And if we got Milchek to churn in the finale too, ooh, baby, that'd be great. But it looks like the finale is 44 minutes, and that's exciting. I mean, this has been a journey, I guess. I mean, it has with Silo 10 episodes in a row, and then right after Silo did 10 episodes in a row of Severance, and we're already almost done, which is crazy. It's crazy. But thank you guys so much to everyone who left a like, who watched the video, who enjoyed the video. I mean, even if you didn't enjoy it and you still watched it, that's cool. As long as you didn't leave a dislike, that's kind of mean. But thank you guys so much for watching. Next week, season finale. Bye guys. Have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.